With just 2 weeks until fans return to WWE television, we get a returning Zelina Vega. Edge goes after Jimmy Uso. MVP and Kofi Kingston have a stellar segment, and Riddle has a career-defining week. All that and much more on our Week in Review. Here we go.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
All right, everybody. Welcome to your Week in Review for this Sunday night, the 4th of July, 2021. Yes, it is the 4th of July as I record this. And actually, as I speak, probably a lot of fireworks are going off as it's just a little shy of 9 p.m., which is right around when probably your local place, wherever that may be, starts to fire off those fireworks. And I hope everyone is enjoying themselves. If you're not sitting at home and you're actually out and having fun, then enjoy yourself, stay safe, and hope everything is going well. And hey, if you're a wrestling fan, we have got 2 weeks. 2 weeks left until the soul of wrestling returns. I say this at the beginning of almost every show I do, but I cannot underscore how important, just how important this is for the fans, for the performers, who I'm sure are maybe even more excited than the fans. They've been having to perform in front of nobody for the last 16 months, 17, whatever it's been. And, of course, the WWE product itself. It is going to change in a big way. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to be blind to this. I'm not delusional enough to believe that fans coming back is going to be a cure-all for everything. No, I don't. But what I do think it will do is steer the product in a direction that it hasn't had the ability to do over the last 16, 17 months. And that is give it instant reaction, instant feedback. There's no social media you have to sift through to decide if this was something good or bad. Because oftentimes you only hear the bad on social media. You don't hear the good. So you wonder, well, how many people actually liked what we did, but they didn't vocalize it? Because negativity is usually what grows on social media. So you don't have to deal with that. It's instant. You get to hear what that crowd has to say about whatever's going on in that moment. So I don't think we remember, guys. I really don't think we remember just how awesome it is to have a crowd there. For better or worse, every city's not the same. And the fans will be pumped up to begin with when they're in Houston, the very first night. But we are back to normal, guys, in just a couple of weeks. I believe wrestling is the only holdout. I'm fairly sure that WWE is really the only major sporting event to have yet to go back to regular, normal, in-person, having fans there events. I know WWE, of course, did WrestleMania, but I'm talking on a weekly basis. You know, MLB's doing it on a daily basis. I mean, NBA, I mean, everywhere it's happening. So I think that WWE is in position here to, and I think the fans are in a position to really be able to improve the product, because that's what we all want. And this past week, I think it was a better product. It was better, and there are some things that I really, really enjoyed, like the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens last man standing match. Did you expect anything less from that? Now, you guys know that I cover Monday Night Raw. So as I cover Monday Night Raw, you know that means I'm not going to really dive too deep into it, but maybe add things to my review already. I am running solo tonight at my own request, not because I had anyone bail on me. I had other things that I just didn't know how it would time out, so I didn't want to keep a guest, a co-host being up in the air, and I wanted to make sure I respect their time. So it's me tonight, guys. But that doesn't mean it's just going to be me the rest of the week. I'm probably going to bring on co-hosts for other shows I do this week. maybe Monday Night Raw. And as we get closer to Money in the Bank, yes, and we're going to have a live correspondent, Michael Ritter, who will be in Houston, joining us to discuss, to tell us in person what it was like to be there. And I can't wait to speak with him. And by the way, guys, go check out his podcast. If you're into football, go check out Football Function. It's really well done. And his co-hosts and himself have just great chemistry. It's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go check it out, guys. It's called Football Function. And as we get closer to football starting, which is crazily just a couple of months away. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? Then in 2 months' time, we'll be talking about football. It's mind-boggling how quickly time goes. So get yourself ready. Go watch or go listen to Football Function. Now, and also our other co-host who has a random wrestling podcast, Zach Smith, who does our NXT reviews. Go check out Random Wrestling, guys. He's also on Apple Podcasts. He's just getting on his feet there. He has a couple of exclusive episodes that are not available here that he does. None of them are covered here. So go check that out on really anywhere that you can find wrestling podcasts, which is pretty much everywhere. Go check out Random Wrestling. Now, that said, if you want an ad-free version of this show, I know that's the number one complaint on the show. Man's got to eat, though, right? Go to Patreon. Patreon has it all for $1. You can't go wrong because you get the entire library ad-free. And you get to join us on our Discord server, which we will be doing per one of our patrons' requests. I believe it was Amanda who requested that we do this live in person watching of the the first SmackDown back in front of fans in Houston. So I will be doing that. I will find a way, come hell or high water, to be able to watch SmackDown live with you guys that Friday night, which is less than 2 weeks away. So check that out, guys. If you're interested in joining us, which we had a blast on the last pay-per-view, doing that on our Discord server, it's a little VIP area. Go check it out, guys. Head on over to Patreon. Or if you just want to join us on Apple Podcasts, you want an Apple Podcast subscription ad-free, hit the subscribe button on our page. And it's $2.99 a month, but 3 days are free. So every show that we do, including Wrestling Nostalgia, which is only available on Apple Podcasts and Patreon, you get that ad-free too. So, okay, those are my plugs for the day. Like I said, a man's got to eat, right? All right, well, let's jump into some stuff that I really liked. Because before we get to the bad, and there's some, not a ton this week. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. I mean, is there a pairing right now on the roster that has better chemistry than these two? It's hard to find. It's difficult. I will say that. Now, granted, they're best friends. They don't hold back. They're actual off-screen friendship. And the fact that they've had about 685 matches together doesn't hurt. I also, I respect both men. I was surprised that Kevin Owens won. I thought it'd be Sami Zayn, so I don't know where Sami goes from here. That said, I loved the poetry in this match. What I mean is the poetic ending. And the announcers didn't pick this up. Is Kevin Owens powerbombing Sami Zayn through table after table, but he ended the feud, the program, the way it all started years ago with a powerbomb on the apron. That's how it all started. And it started, I believe, in NXT. So that was extremely, to me, like, for those that pay attention to that kind of stuff, for those of us that are that care about that kind of thing, it is you're rewarded for your memory. Although WWE announcers either forgot or didn't mention, whatever the reason, we weren't told to remember this, which is unfortunate because it would have been a great way to really put a cap on this, or put a bow on this entire rivalry, and say, hey, Kevin Owens ends it the way he began it, with a powerbomb in the apron. I mean, it was right there for the taking. Not a huge deal, but it's one of those things that popped in my mind as I was watching, and it was great. So I mean, those two have to be banged up, especially Kevin Owens, who took crazy bumps. I mean, like table after table bump. And I know tables don't really, I mean, to me, it's weird, right? Like, like when you think about this logically, you're going through a table that is just, I mean, it's made of like, I don't know, balsa wood, or not balsa wood, but like compressed wood with no steel frame. It's just kind of like, they have to like gently place themselves on it so they don't accidentally go through. It's wrestling, right? You're not going to actually have a steel reinforced table, because that would be extremely dangerous, number one, and number two, they may not always break. But going through a table is actually, I think, softer of a landing than is landing on the ring. Why? Or on the outside? Because there's nothing to break your fall, right? I mean, it's just simple physics. And going through a table, actually, again, it's something to kind of slow you down before you come to a dead stop. So I'm not trying to dissect or ruin wrestling for you. Of course, it's all about the visual, the presentation of going through the table. And I get it. But sometimes logic is my worst enemy. Watching wrestling, sometimes you can't have it. So, all right. Well, I really enjoyed that match, and having Kevin Owens come out on top, I'm fine with. I'm fine with it. I thought Sammy was gaining a little bit of momentum, and I thought Kevin Owens was kind of going away based on his tweet after the last pay-per-view. He said, thanks guys. I'll see you in a little while. Perhaps he had a vacation planned, or he was told he was going to be done with TV for a little while and then come back. And then clearly things changed and he's back, and he really didn't take any time off. So having Kevin Owens there now at the Money in the Bank ladder match is interesting. Do I think he's going to win? Yeah, the answer is no. No, he's not. And we'll get into that ladder match, of course, in the coming weeks to come, and have a full preview and prediction show as we get closer. But I really, I love these two together. It's one of those programs, those rare programs in wrestling that you don't mind if it continues. You just don't. It's bizarre. And they keep running this program out there as if it's the final time. And it never will be. But if Kevin Owens and Sammy are finally done with one another, I like how Kevin and Sammy ended it very poetically, ending it the way it began. So, all right. Well, I want to also talk about Baron Corbin. Now, if you want to hear a full SmackDown review from another perspective, Michael Ritter does a great job. He covered it. But I haven't had a chance to weigh in yet, which is always why in the weekend review I tend to heavily rely more on SmackDown, because, especially if I'm alone, right, and I don't have a co-host, because I've already covered Raw. So, that said, Baron Corbin, it's very interesting right now. Baron Corbin is the most interesting he's been in a few years, after Constable Corbin and King Corbin. Can't they ever just leave it alone and give him his name, like Baron Corbin? I mean, he was announced as Baron Corbin to the ring this week, and he said he was embarrassed by it. Why are you embarrassed by your own name? I mean, I don't know. But having him disheveled, distraught, broken down, down on his luck, having his car repoed, I mean, why would the producers decide to air publicly in front of millions of people his car being repossessed in the middle of a match? And by the way, if you're looking, again, logic guys, I apologize for the logic if this is killing you, but maybe some of you enjoy this. If you're looking at this from a, hey, is that really plausible perspective? Now, when you get your car repoed, you have to miss your car payments for several months, right? Like several months. Corbin only lost his crown and apparently had a whole financial issue and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars and some kind of investments or something over the last week, apparently, in 2 weeks, really, since he lost his crown and then lost a bunch of money. He wouldn't go into repossession in that short period of time. Like, it wouldn't be in a week to 2 weeks unless he was already behind on his payments, right? Like, but I doubt it. Right? So anyway, sorry guys if I'm ruining things for you, but I will say Corbin is very interesting to me right now because we have not seen this side of him. What really did it to me is him not just acting the part, but looking the part, growing his hair out with his receding hairline, which the announcers pointed out, which is funny. growing his kind of grayish beard, like he, hasn't shaved in a while, and all this kind of thing, and just the body language, everything about it is just, it's really good. I gotta say, I know it's been only a week, right? 2 weeks now since he lost his crown, so I'm interested to see where they go, because Corbin has been in need of a change for quite some time. It's been a long time coming for Baron Corbin. I'll say that. Baron Corbin has needed this, and needed it very, very badly. So I think do I think this is a babyface turn? I don't know. And the reason is because I could see it going both ways, where he's just putting out an act and then he, comes back twice as nasty and they double down on it, or they're trying to gain sympathy for a guy that, hey, he's down on his luck. Why are you kicking him when he's down? Like Rick Boogs did this week. You could say, why are you doing that? And you start to feel sympathy for the guy, empathy. And they slowly start to turn him babyface, because as human beings, we love a good comeback story. As much as Corbin has been kind of a thorn in our side, I don't think anyone can really say that Corbin ever had nuclear heat. Corbin's never been the guy that you come to pay, you would pay money to see get his ass kicked. You just wouldn't, right? He's just kind of there. He's usually the butt of the joke. He never gets a chance to build heat. He's good on the mic. He's good in the ring, but he never had a chance to really build things. And for a little while, he had subjects and he's being carried to the ring. I think that lasted like a week. There's no explanation why that stopped. And they just can't blow the heat. They can't blow the heat off, or keep the heat on him and not blow it off for more than like a week. It was just a disservice to the character, I think. And so I'm very interested to see where they go with this. I hope he doesn't continue to grow his hair out. I just do. I mean, it would look bad. It would look bad. I mean, I shave my head as well, and I think that if I grew my hair out, let's just say it would be embarrassing, would be putting it lightly. Okay, it looked like I have a freaking bowl around my head. It would be bad news, bears. So I hope, for, I guess, secondhand embarrassment's sake for me, that I don't see that happen, right? I felt embarrassed for him. I'm like, oh my God, I would never do that. Like, you got to keep shaving it or you're in trouble, my friend. Wear a hat. I don't know. Maybe you'll come out in like a baseball cap next week. I don't know. But I'm interested to see where this goes. I really want to see where Baron Corbin lands, what the next step is, because they haven't done anything with him in a while. It's been quite some time. So, and him losing this week in the tag team match, and then again being kind of harassed by Rick Boogs with his pun after pun after pun, you started to feel for the guy. You did. So we'll have to see where this goes. But maybe you guys feel differently, and let me know. Let me know what you guys thought about this. Did you feel the same way about Corbin? Do you feel any kind of empathy for him? Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's not. Maybe that's the point, though. All right. Let's see here. So, and by the way, that match was Shinsuke Nakamura and Big E versus Corbin and Apollo Crews. So kind of a throwaway tag team. And this was all built around Corbin. There really wasn't any kind of side story whatsoever. I mean, Apollo Crews continued to just be Apollo Crews. Nobody spoke. It wasn't about Big E or Shinsuke. It was really about Baron. That was the narrative here that wanted to be, that was attempted to be progressed, was Corbin. Nothing else. At least nothing else I picked up on. So I thought it was fine. I mean, I'm reading a review here where Bleacher Report says this was not good. Not that the effort wasn't there from the workers, but it felt entirely unnecessary when the Corbin character development could have been accomplished just about any other way. Why drag down Big E, Crews, and even Nakamura with it when Corbin could have cut a promo with Kayla that was interrupted by the revelation? That Corbin still sported the King Corbin graphics and music when he entered the arena, and suggests that was thrown together without much thought. Unfortunately, it adversely affects the entire segment and the superstars involved. I would argue against that. Okay. Bleacher Report, get your stuff together. How does this hurt anyone else? How does this hurt anyone else? They're progressing a storyline about Baron. So what? And I think it's interesting because I'm interested to see where they go. Yes, he had a King Corbin entrance, but we all know WWE is very they lag behind when it comes to entrance musics and entrances in general being modified after a character's already made a turn or a change. Example, Bayley took a while to get the heel music. Roman Reigns just recently changed his music. I mean, Sasha Banks, upon her return, she changed her music, but it took a while. Like, character changes don't automatically that night mean you're going to get a new change in your entrance music and theme and all that. It takes time, but I would imagine maybe next week. So, come on, Bleacher, get your stuff together. Bayley and Bianca, they're good. I gotta say, I am all for this match here at Money in the Bank with an I Quit match. And interestingly, though, what I took from this was not just the I Quit stipulation, which is fine, and I think Bianca, by the way, is really starting to settle in to her cadence, her tone. She's not doesn't seem as unsure about herself and who she should be as champion. She just kind of feels the part and she looks the part, and I think she's kicking ass right now being champion. I mean, especially when you compare her side by side with Rhea Ripley, who's kind of on the polar opposite of feeling awkward, doesn't feel like she has earned the belt yet, and you don't really know where she played on which side for a while, heel or face, face and heel. You didn't know. I think it's clear cut now it's a heel, probably so that Becky Lynch can return and immediately face with Rhea. But right now, yeah, Bianca's killing it, I think. And Bayley right now as well as, she's on point as well. And Bleacher Report didn't give this, they gave this a C grading. I thought it was like a B. I mean, at least. And the I Quit, the part that I wanted to say that I took away from this is that Bayley said she would probably quit wrestling altogether if she lost. So that's extremely interesting to me. Very interesting to me. And, we had Bianca say that for everything you've said, you don't shut your mouth. I am looking forward to you saying 2 little words, and that's I quit. And that's fine. I don't have any problem with this continuing. I don't. I know some people are saying this is enough. And here let me read Bleacher Report's review. Okay. And by the way, you're welcome, Bleacher Report, for the free promotion. They say this feud continues for reasons that escape this writer, and despite questionable creative from day one, still the matches have been very good, and the idea of an I Quit match, one of the few gimmick bouts not beaten into the ground by a creative team looking for any way to polish its lackluster booking, is appealing. Okay, I agree with that. I think that's an accurate analysis of the inability of writers and creative to come up with something compelling, so they kind of bandage it with superficial stipulations that they try to make you interested in the program even when there's no substance there, right? An example would be like throwing somebody inside Hell in a Cell when their program hasn't been deserving of it because there hasn't been a fleshed out story. The writers in WWE hope that you are just naive enough to look at it and go, who cares? It's Hell in a Cell. No. I think most fans see right through it, and it's lazy booking. But, okay, so I agree with that. Their analysis continues and says, Belair and Bayley beat the hell out of each other back at Hell in a Cell, and without having to play up the gimmick of the cage, they should be freer to tell the story they want. How many times can Bayley possibly lose before her credibility takes a hit? Because it's highly unlikely WWE officials are taking the title off the EST this early in her run. Yeah, well, who else is she supposed to face right now? They are in a massive issue with star power, big problem. And I think they know that they can get a good match out of these two. It's likely going to be the final time. You may say that Bayley is going to take a hit to her credibility. You know what? She might. So what? She probably will. She probably will take a little bit of hit to her credibility if she loses again clean to Bianca Belair. And that's fine, because Bayley is good enough to be able to repair herself. It's not going to do irreparable damage. It will do some. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Bayley's completely Teflon. No, she's not completely Teflon. You lose enough after you run your mouth and you keep losing and losing and losing. Yeah, of course, you're going to start to chip away. But it's not a critical blow to her career. She could easily take even a little time off, come back, and it's all been forgotten. And Bayley wins a couple of big matches, and boom, this is all just forgotten. So let's continue on here. Let's see. Maybe I'll just kind of use the whole Bleacher Report as a way to guide myself through the SmackDown show. Okay. Here's where I have a little bit of a problem. For all the good, and I've got a lot of good so far. I really haven't trashed anything. This was puzzling, and I'm very conflicted on how I feel about this. I'm very polarized on this, and that's the segment here with Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega. Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega, when Zelina Vega was announced as the next competitor in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match by Sonya Deville, who continues to just handpick certain people and others not. Although, if you're not, if you haven't been paying attention, the reason that we have Sonya Deville coming out there and just kind of handpicking people for the women's division is because you can't have qualifying matches for a division that would essentially cause 60% of the entire women's roster on SmackDown to qualify for the event. I mean, you can't have qualifying matches because there's not enough women on the SmackDown side to have it at all. So Zelina Vega coming back, I was very excited about that. Not, unfortunately it was ruined by social media. I mean, I got to turn my damn notifications off on Twitter. You guys are killing me. I'm not blaming you. Of course, you tweet at me all you want, which by the way is I'm at @wrestling_audio. That's at @wrestling_audio on Twitter. And so the surprise for me was ruined based on the social media because I watch it on a delayed Hulu version. So Zelina Vega coming back was great. I think it didn't make sense when she got released because I don't think that she ever got a fair shake at all. I loved her as a manager. I loved how she had professional relationships with her clients. She wasn't used in a kind of superficial, sexualized way. She was all about business. She could talk herself in and out of trouble. She had a hell of a presence. You believe what she said and does say. And I always thought, man, what the hell are they doing when they released Zelina Vega? I remember saying it. So I'm glad that she's back. I have been a big fan of hers since day one, and I've always said that her best days are in front of her. She's got a lot of potential. I think that she eventually will capture the SmackDown Women's Championship if she stays on SmackDown. Maybe she gets drafted to Raw. Which, by the way, guys, anybody else catch? Some people are talking about how you win the Money in the Bank ladder match, and they're talking about, well, maybe I'll cash it in on Monday Night Raw. Maybe I'll cash it in on SmackDown. Well, can we get a clear, decisive rule as to how the winner can cash in? Like, is it only on their brand? Is it brand specific? Can they float between brands? What is this? And they have not explained it. I think Zelina Vega was the one who came out and said that, maybe I'll challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Maybe I'll challenge for the Raw Women's Championship. Maybe I'll challenge for the NXT Women's Championship. And I'm sitting there going, wait, how is that possible? How does that work? Nobody bothers to explain this. How does this work? And I'm not blaming Zelina Vega. I'm blaming creative for their lack of even giving a damn to figure out this loophole. It should be very clear. It's like the Rumble every year. Can they only challenge on their brand, or can they go anywhere they want? Sometimes it's specific, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they don't bother to explain, and it should just be implied. And the same thing goes with this year. So let me get this straight. I mean, if you win the Money in the Bank ladder match, it essentially gives you the option to switch brands. That's what they're saying, because you can't win the SmackDown Women's Championship if you're on, or the Raw Women's Championship if you're on SmackDown, and then continue to live on SmackDown to defend the Raw Women's Championship. That doesn't make sense. So it essentially does give you the option to just float, or rather, if you win the championship on any other brand, you have to go to that brand, right? See, these rules are never fleshed out. No one bothers to explain them. They're just ambiguous. So I'm going to go with Zelina Vega's explanation, I guess, because that's the way the creative is going to tell us. But now here's the match between Liv Morgan. And by the way, I love how they're giving Liv Morgan a voice every week. I will say that about this segment. I love Zelina Vega on the mic. Anytime she puts a microphone next to her lips, it's just I love the way that she speaks. Just it's her presence. It's the way that she speaks. Her, like, you feel like she's speaking from her gut, not from a script. Even if she is speaking from a script, she has me fooled. She just is. There's so much there. And I cannot wait to see her as champion if that happens, and when it happens, rather. So Liv Morgan, though, also, I like how Liv Morgan comes out and gets a voice every week. It's needed. We need to switch it up. We need to. It's not just about Bayley and Bianca, as good as they are. We do need fresh faces, and nothing like Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega to freshen things up. I mean, certainly, I think it's good. And Liv Morgan coming out and trying to win over the respect, I guess, of Sonya Deville, who, by the way, are we going to gloss over the fact that last week she said Liv Morgan was one of the competitors in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and then I guess backtracked after she trash talked Carmella, and it was weird. Then she had to suddenly qualify, but it's not branded as a qualification match. It's just branded as like a proving yourself match. So last week she beats Carmella. This week she beats Zelina Vega, albeit a pull of the tights after Zelina tried to do it to her. And so that wasn't a qualifying match. Like, what is happening? I don't know what's going on. I would like it to be labeled as a qualifying match. I mean, how is Liv Morgan not deserving? How is Liv Morgan not deserving of this match? I mean, I would love to challenge the creative on that, or challenge the character of Sonya Deville and say, so wait a minute. You have a Zelina Vega who hasn't been in the company in many, many months, suddenly come back, even though she said, I'll wrestle all over the world. Well, we've been told many times, we've been told that it does not matter where you've been, that this is the big leagues. So exactly how does that qualify Zelina when she's all wrestled all over the world? And yet Liv Morgan, who's been here longer than Zelina Vega, doesn't get a shot at the Money in the Bank women's ladder match. It doesn't make sense. So I think what's going to happen, Liv Morgan will eventually get into this match, and she'll just keep winning matches every week, and maybe the final week before the pay-per-view, she will finally get the qualifier and get into the match. I don't know why she has to struggle where everyone else is just handpicked. It doesn't make sense. So that's the one thing I will say about this matchup with Zelina and Liv. It's great to see Zelina. I was excited. Awesome to see her. I just, I don't know why. You're also having Zelina lose on her first match back. So that's also discouraging, right? Not good. So let's see what the good old boys of Bleacher Report said about this. They said this match was rather nondescript, as much of it either took place during the commercial break or was rushed through. The return of Vega, though, is a welcome one. One of the more underutilized talents on the roster, she showed value during Paul Heyman's brief run as creative director of Raw, and had a solid championship encounter at last year's Clash of Champions. Now on SmackDown, with an opportunity to make a big splash in the Money in the Bank match, she could be a game changer as a potential challenger to Bianca Belair, especially considering the lack of depth on the roster at this point. And then, of course, we get Rollins still expressing his desire to challenge Reigns for the Universal Championship. And next week, he's facing Cesaro for a qualifier into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. So I think that's going to be a bunch of fun. And I'm interested to see who could win that. I would assume that Cesaro beats Rollins. So Rollins is off the pay-per-view, and it frees him up to screw over Edge so they can work a program in SummerSlam, as we all believe will happen. So this is certainly interesting. There's a lot of things working right now. And SmackDown, man, oh man, it's such a better show, isn't it? Good Lord, it's better. Even Angelo Dawkins versus Otis. Even a match that you would think is just a throwaway time filler. No. I love what this Alpha Academy has done. It's, I think, overachieved. It's amazing what just a change in a facial expression and shaving someone's beard can do. And I'm not talking about Jackson Riker. I'm talking about Otis here, of course. Him beating Angelo Dawkins the way that he did. To use the old proverbial statement, the one that is completely overused, well, I just said a word there, but message. You talk about sending a message to fans that this guy is for real. And at least they're at least saying to fans, this guy's on our radar. And we're going to be elevating him. So look out. Now, whether it's Vince's just 1 or 2 week experiments and then he goes away, maybe. I mean, look what they did with Otis winning the Money in the Bank, and then he subsequently gave it up to The Miz. So having Otis here, though, essentially squash Angelo Dawkins was really crazy to see. And he's essentially the modern day Vader. He's using the Vader bomb. And a lot of heavier guys have used that move, the second rope splash. It's very effective. If you're a big guy, I mean, it's believable that would be a finishing maneuver, and I'm fine with it. And Otis has adopted it, and it makes sense. So really, really cool to see what they've done here. Completely changing Otis from this roly-poly, I like food guy to serious dude that just has a mean mug on him. Good stuff. Good stuff. So here's what Bleacher Report says about it. The match was a designed squash, and it worked perfectly. They gave this segment an A. Otis looked like an unstoppable machine, and while some may not be that excited about the prospects of another push, he certainly has the talent to benefit the company in an expanded role. Hopefully, Gable also benefits from the renewed interest in Alpha Academy because he's too damn good to be ignored or underutilized. Yeah, I mean, that's the other part of it is, what about Chad Gable, or Shorty G, or good Lord, whatever kind of weird crap they want to give us with that. So that is really encouraging for Otis. All right, well, now on to Edge, who opened the show. I mean, he opened the show and he was going on about, Roman and how he saw a look of fear in his eyes, and how he knows that he can beat Roman one-on-one. There's no Daniel Bryan this time, which is very true. It's very true. He expressed confidence in his ability to beat Roman Reigns, and he vowed to dethrone him at Money in the Bank. And he went on. He also talked about the complaints, right? The complaints he could use and be justified in using about Daniel Bryan interjecting himself into the main event at WrestleMania, being one of them. The fact that he didn't get that opportunity one-on-one is a big one, and he could have used it. It was a big loss, and he said Edge admitted that it was a loss that set him aside for a while, and that it took a little while to come back from. So that was certainly understandable if you're in Edge's shoes, that it would be something devastating that you have to deal with. He saw it no other way. And all of a sudden he loses the match that he could visualize himself winning. And so then we get, of course, Jimmy Uso with Paul Heyman backstage, and he's talking trash, and he said he's going to call out Edge by the end of the night. And he eventually did, with no Roman Reigns, by the way. No Roman Reigns. And what I liked about this most, number one, Roman Reigns not being on the show is fine with me. Not because I don't think Roman's doing a good job, but because that makes it more special when he's there. It's certainly a well-deserved week off, and I'm fine with him not being there. And Jay not there. Like, what's going on? See all these questions? It makes you want to know. And having Jimmy there try to call out Edge made sense. But Edge played the smart babyface here. And he did it in a couple of ways. Edge actually talked about how this is a setup, and that once I start, getting the upper hand on Jay, that from behind Roman's going to come and it's going to be 2-on-1. Smart. Kevin Owens is often calling this stuff out, and it makes sense. As a babyface, you should know that that's what's going to happen, and that was good. Number 2, when Edge came out at the end, when Jimmy called him out, Edge told Jimmy, "Hey, you're talking about how you're no one's itch." Rhymes with itch. PG show, guys. But yet you're the right-hand man coming out here to do Roman's dirty work. Exactly. Right? Pointing out the hypocrisy of the heel. How he's talking about how he was nobody's itch, and yet he's doing the handiwork of Roman. Because that's exactly what happened last week. And Jimmy and Edge fight it out. Eventually Edge gets the upper hand, and he does exactly to Jimmy what he did to Roman at WrestleMania and put him in, actually he used like a metal bar this time to put it between the teeth of Jimmy, and having that same look of desperation and fear. It was great. And Edge gets the upper hand here after a spear, and he just manhandled Jimmy, and Edge closed the show by saying, I'll never stop. That absolute psychotic look in Edge's eyes, who, God almighty, does he have money eyes, was brilliant. And this is a great segment. Makes you wonder what Roman's going to do when he gets back next week, assumingly. Now, with Seth Rollins, of course, he, as I said earlier, was told by Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce that, hey, you got to qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. You'll eventually get your one-on-one, but next week you get to challenge for that Money in the Bank briefcase by fighting Cesaro. And Seth Rollins, who is just starting to really feel himself out now. I got to say, Seth is also on a great path. For a while, it felt like he was lost. And now he is coming into his own as well. He feels like he knows who he is. It doesn't feel like he's meandering in kind of an in-between role, or a messiah with no followers, or he's not trying to burn it down as the baby face, but he's kind of, it's this hybrid version of Seth, but he's kind of found himself in it. And I like it. I really like it. And, I'm seeing Seth and Cesaro go on one-on-one one more time. I'm fine with. Next week will be fun. It'll be fun. I'm fine with it. So I expect Cesaro to win, because Cesaro, I think, will be fun in the ladder match, but then that'll put Seth over the edge to attack Edge at the pay-per-view, leading to a SummerSlam match between the two. I mean, I just don't see any other way. And that's fine. That's totally fine. So again, great. Another really good SmackDown, guys. Really good. Now, shifting to Raw. Again, I don't want to go through segment by segment here, because I've done that on my Monday Night Raw review. However, looking back as to what happened this week and reminding myself what the heck happened, because by the time I get to Sunday, I don't remember what the hell happened on Monday. Nikki Cross and her whole superhero gimmick, and some of you love it. Again, I am not in that camp at all. Maybe with time I'll change my opinions. I'm also entitled to change my opinions. I did with Riddle, for God's sakes. I mean, I was trashing him on a weekly basis here, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm his biggest fan. But it's large and due in large part to Randy Orton and their chemistry together. Without that, I think I'd be still saying the same thing. But with Nikki Cross being this superhero, I don't like the. All right, well, I don't want to get into it. I'm not a fan. Just very, very briefly, the whole feel good positivity, after school special garbage of trying to inspire people, but also tell them you're trying to inspire them, is awful. I just can't and will not understand how people gravitate to this. I don't get it. You go from the most feared woman in NXT to this, not even close to a superhero. Remember, we were getting neck ash. Was that the hashtag? NEC, not even close to neck tash, and not NECTASH. We're gonna get that trending. Not even close to a superhero. That's exactly what Nikki Cross is. I mean, she's basically dressing up and playing Halloween on a weekly basis here. So, anyway, Not my thing. It makes me want to vomit. It's to me, this is like the epitome of the PG era. It's just embodies everything I hate about wrestling at times, or how they portray baby faces. They're just sickeningly soft. It's, I don't know, but I like Nikki Cross. That's the hard part. I like her. All right. Well, Kofi Kingston and Bobby Lashley are on a collision course, and I believe they're in a tag team match this week with Bobby Lashley. I forget who his opponent is or who his tag team partner is, but Kofi Kingston and MVP this past week spoke, and I went over this on Monday night, and I thought it was excellent. Kofi Kingston's best promo maybe in the last 10 years, because it didn't have to deal with pancakes. It didn't have to deal with inside jokes or talking about video games or anything else. It was straight talk Kofi. No unicorns, no toast, no other food, breakfast, no breakfast buffet items. Just straight out Kofi Kingston being real with MVP. And it was great, because I think there's a lot of real stuff there. Same with MVP. MVP can hold his own, really, against anyone. It was just really good talk between just real talking points here, and it ended, of course, with MVP getting laid out, which again I wasn't a fan of, because I really don't like Kofi Kingston. Probably I dislike Kofi Kingston more than Nikki Cross. That's hard to do. As a character, Kofi Kingston is, to me, just, and has been for a long time, like, just cringeworthy. As Anthony DeMarco has said many times, he is the worst part of the New Day, and he was, and continues to be. I don't like him in that role at all. I'm not saying he should get his Jamaican accent back, but good Lord. And by the way, guys, go check out, if you're interested, our What If, myself and Anthony DeMarco recorded last week, a What If segment that's available on Patreon if you join the Raw tier and higher. We did a What If on if WCW brought in their top stars during the Invasion angle in 2001. Meaning, we didn't have to wait on Hogan and Goldberg and Flair and Nash and Hall. That all of them came in right at the beginning of the Invasion angle. So just it was an awesome conversation. Probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite thus far that we've done. So if you're interested, that's available on Patreon if you join the Raw tier and higher. By the way, let's see here. I already covered Kofi and MVP. Now, Asuka and Naomi versus Eva Marie and Doudrop. I mean, I don't know what to say about Doudrop. Again, I feel bad for Piper Niven. I do. For all, again, I probably said this on my Raw review, so if I did, I apologize. Maybe I'll say it differently so it sounds like I'm talking about something different. I'm really not trying to repeat myself, but it came into my head. And I will say that for all the progress that they have made for the women in wrestling, in WWE, and they've made excellent strides, really due to the fans getting fed up, not creative, which isn't a problem of its own, isn't it? I mean, the fact that WWE had to be pushed by its fans to do this, and not just them thinking of on their own going, hey, we probably shouldn't portray the women as kind of a joke and or sex objects. Maybe we should actually give them a chance instead of waiting for the fans to tell us to give them a chance. Has anyone ever discussed that? Like the fact that they didn't see it as problematic without us telling them it's problematic is a problem. So how about that? But my point was, for all the progress that they have made and all the strides and trying to equal the footing with the men, and I think at times they have and exceeded what the men were doing at times, they go back to superficial stuff, whether it's, again, sexualizing Carmella or Eva Marie, or not just sexualizing them from an external standpoint, but if you're going to look at if you're just looking at them from how they look, you're looking at them, you could do that both ways negatively, meaning what they're doing with Piper Niven, i.e. Doudrop. I'll say Doudrop. I promised I would. No more Piper Niven because she's not. What they're doing with Doudrop and renaming her, they have essentially taken what we've been trying to get away from, which is just look at the outside of the women. And they've re-injected that into the women's division again. And meaning, what do you see? Well, I see somebody that looks like a water droplet. It looks like a dewdrop on on a blade of grass, right? And unfortunately, it's just, I think, hurting the women. It's bad. It's bad. I feel for Dewdrop. I really do. But same with, where the hell's Naomi, by the way? I don't feel the glow anywhere. Maybe she could do something. I think she's due for something, don't you? I would love to see Naomi just change it up, do something, turn heel. I don't know, or if you're not going to turn her heel, just do something of significance with her, because she is just getting completely lost and forgotten. So, all right, let's see. Of course, we had Rhea Ripley and Charlotte and Mandy Rose and Tamina. I don't know. Again, Rhea Ripley is not my favorite, at least in this role. She feels obnoxious. She feels undeserving. She doesn't feel like a real champion. She feels like she's playing champion. Let's see. So what happened with this matchup? It was Charlotte, Natalya, and Tamina versus Dana Brooke, Mandy, and Rhea. And Rose tagged in. I'm reading the review because I'm trying to jog my memory. Rose tagged in, but was quickly grounded with a big foot from the Queen that scored her the win. That's right. We had a boot end the match, and I was happy about that. And Rhea hit her with a chop block after the match. So you have heel attacking heel from behind. I guess it's going to come down to who's more of the heel, which is clearly Rhea Ripley. I mean, she's just obnoxious as hell. All right, let's see. Oh, Riddle, AJ Styles, and Drew McIntyre. That match was awesome. But it ends up, of course, being Drew. I know people are angry about that because people feel it should have been Riddle or AJ. But again, guys, I will re-emphasize my point about that match, which is AJ's caught up in the tag team division right now. We all know we want to get him out, but unfortunately, he's half of the tag team champions. We have Riddle, who's caught up in essentially the tag team division with Randy Orton. Right? You have him in a great story with Randy. You also have Drew, who's not doing jack, you know what? He's not doing anything. He's easily the most free guy to do something with at the pay-per-view. Because the other ones probably already have their lines set. With Drew, he doesn't know where to go. They don't know what to do with him. And I think they have a real chance of getting Drew McIntyre booed at the pay-per-view. I think in fact, I think it's likely that Drew gets booed. I think it's very likely because I think fans are just flat out sick of it in any capacity, him being involved. But we have to be smart enough, guys, to know that doesn't mean he's going to win. In fact, it's extremely unlikely he's going to win. Like, I would bet a lot of money that there's almost no chance he wins. And if he does, that's essentially you're turning him heel by default. I mean, that is going to be the byproduct of Drew McIntyre winning, is you are turning him heel, whether you want to or not. The fans are sick of it. They don't want him in this role. They are over Drew. They're done with it. It's just completely been buried into the ground. So I would advise against it. So nonetheless, guys, I mean, this is fine. I think that Drew in the match, he'll have a hope spot, and fans will boo, which will be fun to watch. So anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. I know it's a little shorter than what you're used to with a co-host, but that's what you get when I have a co-host, is usually more time. But tonight it's just me, and I'll be back later this week, probably with another co-host on Tuesday. I'll try. I can't promise anything. For the Monday Night Raw review, Wednesday is our mailbag and Wrestling Nostalgia for those subscribed on Apple and subscribed on Patreon, and or subscribed on Patreon. You get the Wrestling Nostalgia. And then we're getting closer to fans returning. We're getting closer to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Things are looking up, everyone. We've only got one more SmackDown in the Thunderdome. One, guys. We can do it. We're this close. For God's sakes, we can do it. So everybody, thanks so much for listening. Again, hit us up on Twitter at wrestling_audio or on Instagram at WWE_podcast. You can email the show at realwwepodcast@gmail.com or with questions or whatever. I have a mailbag that I do once a week, so you can send in your questions there or call us at 518-952-0247. That is the number that you guys can call, and I will put you on as long as it's 3 minutes or less, because it'll cut you off anyway. And there's no profanity or anything, kind of like, just basic stuff, basic rules that you'd expect. Then yeah, we'll throw you on and encourage you, if you're thinking about it, to get yourself on there, vent, do whatever you want, and I'll put you on. And thank you everybody for listening, as always. And yes, I will talk to you next time.